Okay, you'll have picked up that this topic we're doing now is quite strongly related to the work on regression that you did in S1. So the concept of seasonal variation and evaluating that is very closely linked to the concept of residuals. Okay, you've been drawing trend lines on by eye. Okay, but sometimes we actually can use regression. Typically, they'll do this for you, but you could, if you had these points as values of x and y, you could type them in your calculator, and your calculator would come up with the values of a and b that we see here. Okay, but here I've been given the equation of the regression line. Okay, I need to plot this line. Now, to plot a line, all I need to do is find 2 points on it, and those points should be some way apart. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is to actually take, I can work out a value of 0. Does my scale work at 7? Yes, it does. So I can find a value at 0 and a value at 7. So if I plug x equals 0 into this and x equals 7 into this, obviously when x is 0, this bit's going to be 0, so I'm just going to get y equals 81. And for the other one, I need to use my calculator. So I'm going to have to do 81 plus 4.85 times 7. 81 plus 4.85 times 7 is 114.95. So that is the 3 significant figures 115. Excuse me. So 115, can I find it on here? Yes, I can. So at 7 I've plotted 115. Here I need to plot 81, which is there. So I draw in my regression line carefully through those 2 points. And that should look reasonably convincingly like a fairly good line of fit to those points. Okay, so, and I can see that because I've got a nice smooth pattern, I've got short-term variation. There was a reason why true values were below trend here. There's another reason, we don't know what these reasons are, why that went above trend and now it's gone down again. Right, okay, so what you now might need to do is make some forecasts. So your basic forecast is from trend line, but then we're going to see how we can actually estimate how far above or below that trend line we should go by thinking about some residuals. So, what value does a regression equation predict for sales at time t equals 7? Okay, in fact, I've already done that. I did that plotting my line. I substituted 7 in and I got this number, 114.95. 115 should be okay, but since I've got that precise value, I'm going to say 114.95. Okay, which is approximately 115 to 3 significant figures. Okay, use my diagram to suggest a possible residual for t equals 7. Well, residual, remember, is just how far the actual point is above or below the line. So, I haven't got a residual here, but because I can see this is short-term variation, okay, I know that these points have just been getting, well, they were getting a little bit below trend line. Maybe I think they're going to come up a little bit. So if I choose some nearby points, this is not an exact method. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose the last point, which was the residual for the last point. This value here, okay, that looks like it's 113. So the trend line point was 113, and this one here looks like it's halfway between 117 and 118, so this looks like, sorry, 107 and 108. So this looks like 107.5. So I've got a nearby residual of, okay, 107.5 minus, so it's always actual value minus estimated value or predicted value. So it's 107.5 minus 113. 107.5 minus 113 equals, okay, so this is going to be a negative residual. It's negative because actual values are below trend. So do this subtraction and you get minus 5.5. Okay, now that was the residual, not at t equals 7, that was the residual just before 7. Okay, there's a bit of a short-term effect going on here. Okay, I could try and guess whether I think the residual will get larger or smaller, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say that I know I'm a bit below trend at the moment, so I'm going to use the nearest available residual and adjust that. So I'm going to give that as my answer as what I think the residual might be for t equals 7. Okay, so I had this estimate from the trend line of 115, which was up here, and I now know I need to come down a bit, and I've estimated the amount that I need to come down is this minus 5.5. So I need to say 115 minus 5.5 is 109.5. Now it might be 110, it might be 109, or it might be that the short-term patterns, there's never any guarantee that the patterns of the past will continue into the future. So it might be 216 instead of 109, but I've got no particular reason to believe that, and this is the best forecast that we've got available in terms of the current data. So if patterns continue, we expect the next figure 7 to be something like that number. Hope that helps. Actually, just one last thing before I finish the video. I'm going to remind you of the definition of residual. So the residual is the actual value minus the predicted value, and in the case of this time series work, that's the predicted value from the trend line. Okay, so this applies to S1 as well. Residual is always the actual data value minus the value from the regression line or the trend line.